Tonight in 9 News, it's on. The PM and opposition leader go into official campaign mode as the countdown begins to May 21. The Greens target the Treasurer with several Victorian seats crucial to the race. Albert Park smashes a new Grand Prix crowd record as Ferrari's Charles Leclerc claims the win. A pedestrian struck and killed by a car at a notorious Melbourne intersection, the driver running a red light. Boris Johnson makes a surprise visit to Ukraine in a show of solidarity. And the Bombers finally on the board, hanging on in a thriller against the Crows.
This is Melbourne's 9 News with Alicia Loxley.
Good evening. Our political leaders have had months of warm-up and now it's the real thing. The Prime Minister today calling the election for the 21st of May. Now he and opposition leader Anthony Albanese will crisscross the country for the next 6 weeks, trying to convince the nation to vote for them. We begin with Nine's political editor, Chris Uhlmann.
Scott Morrison does not want this election to be a referendum on him.
This election is about you, no one else.
Anthony Albanese is determined to make this contest personal.
His Deputy Prime Minister has said he's a hypocrite and a liar.
And Barnaby Joyce now has the same script as his leader.
This is not a popularity contest.
But it will boil down to a contest between two men, two parties and two possible futures.
It's a choice between a government you know and a Labor opposition that you don't.
We are a great country, but we can be even better if we have a better government.
Scott Morrison knows he must own up to his errors.
Our government is not perfect. We've never claimed to be.
But he has to reclaim his record.
On almost any measure, on fatality rates from COVID, vaccine rates, economic growth, jobs growth, or debt levels, Australia's recovery is leading the world.
Anthony Albanese must make the past a wasteland.
I think that Australians want a government that does its job, that doesn't always blame someone else, that accepts responsibility.
Both men lay claim to the future.
It's a choice between a strong future and an uncertain one.
This election will determine whether we can come together to build a better future.
And both claim to have a plan to get there.
Our plan will deliver more and better jobs.
Labor has the policies and plans to shape that future.
The key plan is to win enough seats to form majority government. The race is all about hitting one number, 76. That's the bare minimum needed to form government in the 151-seat lower house. It's the coalition's starting point, while Labor starts this contest on 69 and needs to win 7 seats. The road to this election began with the Prime Minister leaving Kirribilli House in Sydney this morning to fly to Canberra and drive straight to the Governor-General's residence at Yarralumla.
I advised him to call an election for the House of Representatives and half of the Senate on May 21.
While Anthony Albanese and his partner Jodie Hayden stepped out together at Sydney's Royal Easter Show. While the coalition grapples with voter anger at Scott Morrison, the Labor Party has a different kind of problem, and that's that after 26 years in public life, the opposition leader is still introducing himself to the electorate as the campaign begins.
I'm Anthony Albanese, graduating in economics at Sydney Uni and serving 6 years as Infrastructure Minister.
The government sees a weakness it can exploit.
They still can't tell you what they do, who they are, or what they believe in.
While Labor needles away at Scott Morrison's character.
I won't go missing when the going gets tough.
So the phony war is over and the real battle has begun.
There are many great risks, but I believe there are many, many opportunities there to be seized from the strong position we've put ourselves in as a country.
I will lead with integrity and I will treat you with respect. I will restore faith in our political system.
40 days of campaigning lie ahead.
Hey ho, let's go.
It will be a long and deeply personal fight. Chris Uhlmann, 9 News.
And a handful of critical Victorian seats could tip the nation's balance of power. It comes as the Greens put a target on the Treasurer, who's facing his biggest threat yet. State political reporter Mark Santomartino.
Katie Allen's name may have been on the posters, cookies and in the centre of selfies.
You're going to bend down.
But this was the Treasurer's show.
Let's win Higgins, let's win the election and let's see the coalition government returned.
Confidence in the face of a growing threat in his own backyard. Dr Monique Ryan, backed by a sea of supporters in trademark teal, launching her $1 million campaign to unseat the Treasurer.
Kooyong is not going to fall to an independent, it is going to rise to an independent.
Josh Frydenberg first won Kooyong in 2010. His support grew at the 2013 and 16 elections, gains wiped by the Greens 3 years later. A campaign that plummeted the Liberals' primary vote below 50% in a blue-ribboned turned marginal seat, being chased by a paediatric neurologist and once Labor Party member turned independent.
These fake independents are a vote for the Labor Party.
There's also 5,000 young people who've never voted before. And what they're telling us is that they want action on climate change.
It's a platform shared by fellow independent Zoe Daniels. The former journalist packing a park as Bill Shorten and his bulldog Walter packed their Bunnings trolley with last-minute election supplies, calling on those who vote early to put a 1 down next to Anthony Albanese, while the Greens promised to send their preferences away from the Treasurer.
The goal is to get Josh Frydenberg out, not to make him the next Prime Minister of Australia in a minority parliament.
The polls may be tipping a nationwide swing against the coalition, but the Treasurer is banking on memories of JobKeeper tax cuts and cheaper petrol to convince both Kooyong and the country.
Well, independents will never sit in a cabinet. They will never be a foreign minister, a defence minister, a treasurer or indeed a prime minister.
Mark Santomartino, 9 News.
OK, let's go live now to Nine's political editor, Chris Uhlmann. Chris, who's in front on day one?
Alicia, Labor starts this race well ahead in every public poll, and no government has ever come back from so far, so close to an election. But it will be cold comfort for Labor, Alicia, for 2 reasons. The polls were wrong last time, and this race won't be won in a poll of the whole nation. It's 151 separate battles, and really only a handful of seats are actually up for grabs. That's where the leaders will take up this fight, in the seats they must hold and the ones that they hope to win. Now, Scott Morrison has taken a risk in a long campaign, hoping to expose Anthony Albanese, but it could work against him. And Alicia, there's every chance that at the end the result is a hung parliament.
A huge 6 weeks ahead. All right, Chris Uhlmann, thank you very much for that. Well, Ferrari has reigned supreme as the biggest ever Grand Prix crowd has swarmed Albert Park for a drama-filled 4 days. As Adam Hegarty reports, close to 500,000 spectators have lifted the city to new heights.
Packed like sardines in a sea of euphoria, they greeted their man.
Daniel, 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 Daniel.
Who else but Daniel Ricciardo, showcasing what Victorians have waited 37 months for, while the day belonged to another on-track.
Magic in Melbourne. Charles Leclerc wins the Australian Grand Prix for Ferrari.
Off-track, Daniel was on the money. Race day was Melbourne's day.
It's amazing, it's surreal, but it's just awesome. When we walked in on Thursday, I was like, I don't think it can get bigger. And it's got bigger every day.
Finally, we're in the history books for the right reason. 55,000 spectators on Thursday, then 2 daily records. 112,000 on Friday, 123,000 yesterday, before 128,000 today. More than 400,000 over the 4 days.
Today simply cannot be a race day record because of this year's crowd cap. Being here, it doesn't feel like there is one. The 4-day turnout is absolutely staggering.
The biggest Formula One crowd over the entire event in the history of Formula One anywhere in the world.
Another sellout.
It's race day, man. It's race day.
And another joyous burst through the gates.
Every eye is going to be on Melbourne, and I think it's a time for every Melburnian to be proud.
Even if the interstaters had a bit of a dig.
You missed out for a couple of years.
Yeah, it came last year before that, but no one was here, so.
How does it stack up crowd-wise with years you remember?
Pretty amazing. Haven't seen this many people at an event ever in Australia.
Melbourne hasn't just revived, it's grown.
It's one of the best days of the year today, and to have everyone back here after 2 years being off, it's a pretty good time.
And Adam Hegarty is live at Albert Park tonight. Adam, how is the mass exodus going there?
Well, Alicia, you probably see a little bit of it behind me. To put it into a little bit of context, about an hour and a half ago the race ended, but you still see people trickling out of Albert Park, and you get the feeling a few people are going to be sticking around for a while as well. Hospitality venues in the area, no doubt, going to capitalise once again for the fourth night in a row. The official crowd figures are now in 419,114 people over the 4 days. To put that as well into some context, it beats, Alicia, the previous record of 401,000 set back at Melbourne's very first Grand Prix in 1996.
OK, Adam Hegarty, thank you. Well, tragedy at a notorious intersection in the city's inner northeast this morning with an elderly pedestrian hit and killed. Security cameras captured the moment the driver appeared to run a red light, mowing down the victim. Eliza Rugg reports.
Just after 9 on a busy Sunday morning in Abbotsford, a male pedestrian jogs across Johnston Street at the intersection of Hoddle Street. At the same time, the driver of a grey Toyota sedan appears to run a red light, darting across 6 lanes of traffic. The collision was catastrophic.
Sadly, we struck a pedestrian on the crossing, and sadly that pedestrian has died.
Other drivers pulled over, shocked. At least 15 witnesses from nearby shops rushed to help the victim.
There was people over them and, people on their phones calling services, and I saw the car where you can tell they'd been hit quite heavily.
But the 74-year-old man from the Fitzroy area couldn't be saved.
Oh, it's sad. That could have been one of my staff, local. It's sad, feel sorry for them and their family.
Police say the male Toyota driver stopped at the scene. Crash investigators are looking into the traffic light sequence at the time of the collision.
It doesn't appear that speed's involved. It could be driver distraction.
And Eliza Rugg joins me now live from police headquarters. Eliza, what is the latest on the driver?
Alicia, we now know he is a 69-year-old man from South Yarra. He did stop at the scene and has spent the day helping investigators. No doubt that really clear security camera footage will form a big part of this case. But as of tonight, that male driver, he has been released pending further inquiries, and he is yet to be charged. Alicia.
All right, Eliza, thank you. Ukrainians in the east have been told to flee immediately, and evidence is mounting that Moscow is deliberately targeting civilians. It comes as the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson made a surprise visit to Kyiv. Alison Petrowski reports.
A show of solidarity and of defiance. The Ukrainian leader and the UK Prime Minister walking shoulder to shoulder through the streets of Kyiv, stopping to talk to the embattled city's residents.
You have a remarkable president, Mr. Zelensky, who's done an outstanding job, and we simply wish to keep supporting the people of Ukraine.
The highest profile visit from a Western leader in 6 weeks of war, Johnson's surprise appearance coming with a pledge of more sanctions and more weapons. The UK to send 120 armoured vehicles and anti-ship missile systems in the race to rearm the southeast before the next phase of this invasion. As Ukrainian soldiers cling to Mariupol, they film themselves sneaking up on a Russian armoured personnel carrier. Kharkiv continues to be pummeled, 50 hits in 24 hours, including this apartment block. 100 residents were inside when it was struck. I got hit in the head and the shock wave threw me back, says this survivor, as mass digital evidence of Moscow's war crimes mount. Intercepted calls between their troops revealing direct hits ordered on Ukrainian civilians. Troubling scenes in Chernobyl, where Putin's men imprisoned 169 Ukrainian staff inside the plant's bomb shelter, their blatant disregard for nuclear security apparent, radioactive residue found in their own living quarters. Ukrainian authorities releasing drone video showing abandoned Russian combat positions in the Red Forest, one of the most toxic sites in the world. Chernobyl's chief safety engineer said, "We invite them back to dig more trenches here if they want." In the United States, Alison Petrowski, 9 News.
Ash Barty has revealed her next chapter, announcing plans to become an author. The three-time Grand Slam champion is set to release a series of children's books titled Little Ash, based on her own life, family and sporting stories. Barty will work closely with First Nation creatives in designing the stories and employ her 5-year-old niece as lead critic. The series will be stocked on shelves from July. All right, now with a look ahead at tonight's sport, here is Alicia Muling.
Thank you so much, Alicia. Coming up tonight, the Suns run red hot against the Blues, and it's not the only Carlton concern, a hamstring injury ending the skipper's day. The Bombers finally off the mark after a thriller against the Crows.
Archie Perkins, they know it's there! And the rapture spreads around Marvel Stadium.
Hill comes back to haunt the Hawks, the latest on a luckless pie, and the prognosis isn't good. Cameron Smith roars back into contention at Augusta, a crash course at Albert Park as Ferrari makes it look easy, and you'll never guess who's had another meltdown on a tennis court. That is all coming up, Alicia.
A couple of names that come to mind. All right, Alicia, we'll see you very soon. A 23-year-old diesel mechanic identified as the second person killed in that head-on crash near Mildura that also claimed the life of a police officer. Heartfelt tributes for the loss of a brother and mate next. A stolen car burst into flames after smashing into a Huntingdale burger shop, and mayhem spills onto the streets of Shanghai as locals turn to looting.